Multi-award-winning jewelry designer Khanya Mthethwa will present her solo exhibition titled Abantu, Threads That Bind Us, a contemporary celebration of South Africa's diverse indigenous cultures. The pieces to be presented at the University of Johannesburg Facility of Art, Design and Architecture, FADA Gallery, will honor the richness of ancestral knowledge and craftsmanship through an exploration of identity and a tribute to the resilience of African memory. Mthethwa holds certificates in rough diamond evaluation and diamond cutting. She's also an academic and lecturer and the founder and CEO of Changing Facets, a company that creates contemporary, wearable art, jewelry inspired by indigenous African cultures. And she joins us now to tell us more about her upcoming exhibition and work. Khanya, good morning. Welcome to Newzroom Afrika.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you. It's good to have you. Let's start with your exhibition. Now, you said that, this is inspired by South African culture, past and present, and that it bridges the distance between the two. How so?
It bridges the distance between the two because I look at archival work and the works that I've created that are very contemporary are inspired by, the works that are from the Wits Arts Museum, for example, and also just looking at our history in general. So I look at the indigenous knowledge within our different ethnic groups that are found in South Africa.
It'd be interesting to know, as a jewelry designer, what piqued your interest specifically in South African indigenous material culture?
I think being in academia, you realize that, indigenous knowledge isn't that focused on so much. So my interest started there, where when I was doing my PhD, I realized that, there's a lot of history that goes untold by our own people. For a long time, the narrative has always come from the West of who we are and what we are about. And I think as a creative, I felt like it's my duty to express who we are and to give voice to our people, And I think it is our duty as artistic people to then tell our stories and share those stories and our culture and our heritage and own it.
And what for you has been one or some of the most interesting stories that you have unearthed in your journey as a jewelry designer?
Some of the most interesting stories were, for example, learning about a waist belt that is shared between the Venda culture and the Zulu culture, which is one that holds great significance for the married woman. And they used to use it as a prayer item and as a way of just basically saying after birth, a woman would wear this belt. And that's how she keeps her waist, intact. And I found it interesting because nowadays we have waist trainers.
And it didn't start with the West.
No, it didn't.
We've been having it.
We've been having it. So that's where my interest started, really. And just finding out that there's so much that we don't know about who we are. And then from there, I thought, let me use my skills as a jeweler and also just to tap into the other disciplines as well, to show other designers, how do you use your heritage to express our history as well, and use the works to so that they become archive, they are memories of who we are. So, yeah.
So when you talk about tapping into other disciplines, could you just expand a little bit more for us and what essentially that looks like? Okay,
so other disciplines is like fashion. For example, I'm wearing one of the outfits that I've made for the exhibition, which is a Tsonga-inspired outfit and a very modern take of that. And then there's also photography that you're going to see in the space when people come into the exhibition. There's also vases that are also inspired by the different ethnic groups. And there's also jewellery, which is more art jewellery, which is different to what people are normally used to, because art jewelry is more about expressing, yourself, and it's very artistic, and it doesn't conform to your usual conventional materials. So it looks at alternative materials. So you can go from wood, from beads, and that's basically what I mean by the different disciplines that come together in the exhibition.
Yeah. So now you are, a multi-award-winning jewelry designer. You've showcased, exhibited internationally, places like Croatia, Italy, Athens, Munich, Estonia. Yeah. How did you get into the space in the first place? How did you choose this? How did you even stumble upon jewelry designing as a career vocation?
It was my father, my late father. After, like, when I was about to finish my matric, he wanted to know what I wanted to do. And I was like, I'm keen, I'm interested in like geology, and I'm interested, and he's like, why? And I'm like, no, because I'm interested in diamonds. And he's like, no, that's not what geology is. So maybe let's look at like diamond cutting and stuff. Then I moved to Joburg to come and study at Terry Oppenheimer to study diamond cutting, and then my journey started there. I worked as a diamond cutter, and I felt like my creativity was a bit like, it wasn't expressed properly. So then I decided, no, I need to do something else where I can like explore design and everything. And then I signed up to UJ, the jewellery design and manufacture department, and that's how my journey started.
I think it's quite profound how essentially you work with a mineral that is associated with our continent, but also you're going even deeper to look at the indigenous significance of the material that you work with. Could you talk us through your process of jewelry making, especially when it comes to sourcing these cultural materials?
Yes, so with cultural materials, my inspiration always comes from, first of all, like the research of looking at what were the pieces, how did people adorn themselves in the past? And then from there, for the most part, with us, it's been like a lot of beadwork. And we also do have, a lot of people don't know that with jewelry, like if you look at Mapungubwe, we've had gold jewelry, but it was always like in like beads that were gold. So it's not something that really is just from the West. We've had that, and we had our own goldsmith, we had our own coppersmiths within our ethnic groups as well. But with the import of beads, then we started owning that and turning that into our own patterns. And with the ethnic group divisions that came with colonialization, then people started having identifiers of this is Xhosa beadwork, this is Zulu beadwork, and whatnot. So I look at that in my research first, and then try and either like do a replica of it or do my own like take of it, where it just draws inspiration from that. So for the exhibition, it's mainly a lot of like the beadwork, a lot of alternative materials, a lot of pieces that reflect the different cultures that I'm showcasing.
So I understand that there'll be various layers of this exhibition. For instance, you say that the lower ground level will contain the archive. Tell us about the levels, all the various levels that we can expect from the exhibition.
Okay, so on the ground floor will be where I do textile, which is like images of kings or representations of the kings that represent each ethnic group. And they have done some embroidery on those, and just basically, adding an element to it and giving a write-up also on each king or the history of that culture based on those kings. And then in the same space, then you see archival work from Wits that has been loaned to UJ for this exhibition, which is like beadwork, and that is also related to the different cultures. So in that space, that's what you're going to see. And then there's a performance as well, a recorded performance, where I'm basically, it's an incorporation of the different dances that you'd find in the cultural group. So that's the ground floor. And then on the lower level, then there is the contemporary, the present, which is more of like how I'm interpreting, the different designs and how I've used archival works as inspiration to articulate, who we are in the different cultures.
Fantastic. So could you tell us where and how people can actually experience the exhibition?
It's at FADA, at the UJ FADA Gallery, and it's going to be on the 6th of March at 6:30.